Kick off with the big stories of the day in the company of two of my favourite people, two outstanding political commentators. We've got the head of comms for Popular Conservatism, Annunziata Rees-Mogg, and the former Conservative MP and now broadcaster and commentator Sir Michael Fabricant. Great to see both of you. And Annunziata Rees-Mogg, you've got a man that entered the country illegally who attacks a 14-year-old girl, possibly destroying her life. He then walks free from prison, goes back to prison 3 or 4 times, asking for help and potentially for re-entry. He's now at large, potentially in the capital city of this country. You couldn't make it up.
You couldn't, with the police rather sweetly but utterly pathetically saying, please help, please hand yourself in.
Unbelievable.
Well, he tried. He tried for 90 minutes, apparently, to get back into prison, saying he should be there. And it seems like one person seems to have been suspended because they accidentally released him. But this is a systemic failure, isn't it? That when you've got prison staff giving him directions to the train station, refusing him entry back to the prison, he asked 4 or 5 times. This is a very serious problem with our institutions in this country. They are not working.
Most definitely. So, Michael Fabricant, who do we hold responsible for this oversight?
Well, first of all, we have to feel relieved, I think, because Wes Streeting has said that he is angry. And David Lammy, he's livid. So this should give reassurance to the nation. Apparently 246 people, not just this guy, but 246 people have been released. They've committed dangerous crimes, but have been released this year when they shouldn't have been, which is twice as many as the previous year. Why any are being released, I have no idea. And who's responsible? Well, you know what they say? The buck stops there, and where is there? The government.
Most definitely. Of course, Labour have only been in power for a year and a bit. This is a legacy of 14 years of Tory misrule, isn't it, Annunziata?
Well, as Michael just said, it has doubled in the last year. There might have been problems, but Labour is just making them worse and worse.
Same with the economy, isn't it?
I don't know where to begin with that. Rachel Reeves has been such a disaster, and we have another huge warning from the supermarkets again today, but it's basically weekly that we have some massive warning on what's going wrong and how much all of us will suffer from her policies. But this is clearly an institutional problem. But it feels like it's being hidden, just as with the rape gangs. People didn't want to investigate because it might cause offence. I fear that there is a similar problem going on here, where just in case, you investigate the wrong person who should have been released, and that you might be accused that there's some stereotyping going on, you pretend it doesn't happen and you brush it under the carpet.
Yes. So, Michael, is this a tipping point moment that changes the national conversation around illegal immigration? Because the idea that someone would enter the country illegally and then harm a young British citizen, a 14-year-old girl, this has surely got to spark so much public anger.
I wish it were the case, but I suspect not. I think that if there is anger, and I think there is anger at the incompetence of yet another example of how Labour has failed to actually deliver what they promised to deliver, I don't think it is a tipping point. I think it's just one more step after another step, precisely demonstrating, that this government doesn't really care. And now you've got Lucy Powell, of course, the deputy leader, the deputy prime minister of the United Kingdom, saying that she actually thinks we should actually be welcoming illegal immigrants, and that the government is trying to imitate the Reform Party, and that's why Reform is doing so well. And Labour should return to its grassroots and embrace those people who want to come into our country for no other reason than they have a cushy life here under Labour.
Yes, is there a possibility, Annunziata, that this government could soften its position on immigration further based upon political pressure from Starmer's new deputy?
Absolutely. I mean, we do now have, again, a sort of civil war at the heart of Labour, with Lucy Powell representing the hard left, effectively. She quoted Jeremy Corbyn's "for the many, not the few" In her speech yesterday, she criticised Farage, saying we've let him get away with it and we reject this strong policy on immigration that supposedly Starmer has. In my view, it's a pathetic policy that isn't having any effect at all on immigration and is just words, not actions. But if the Labour Party does soften their stance further, we will just have even more, and even a whiff of that to the people smugglers. And there will be more and more people coming. That we've shown we can't even deport someone who has been arrested, convicted, put in prison, and yet we still lose them rather than deport him back to Ethiopia. It is we are such a soft touch, and we are an attractive place for people to come. But I think Starmer does face a problem with Lucy Powell, that he is seen as the heir to Blair by the left of his party. I don't think he's seen as the heir to Blair to most of the public, but the left of his party are rather delusional. And they are setting themselves up as one side against the other. This could well split the Labour Party and make his life very difficult.
Yes, Fiona has messaged the show. Good morning, Fiona. She said, Starmer shouted country first, party second. All we're hearing from Lucy Powell and Starmer is how they're getting party votes. Another lie. How about this from, let's have a look, Fiona, and there's a different Fiona there, who says, Labour want to tax our citizens for housing illegal immigrants, and if these migrants get work, they send monies home to women and children they left in a war zone, or do their families come to live in their new houses with access to free healthcare and education? Are these migrants getting priority for all the jobs coming with clean energy to the Prime Minister? A lot of anger regarding the migrant hotels, which is now, Sir Michael, going to change and going to become a concern about social housing in council areas. So 90% of councils will be accommodating illegal immigrants in the year ahead. And Helen's not happy about this. She said, Mark, my daughter was lucky enough to get a council flat. It was in a shocking state and we took weeks getting it habitable. Will the migrants have the same thing? I doubt it. Your reaction to the news, Michael, that 90% of British councils will now be taking illegal immigrants?
Well, I mean, what we want to see, frankly, is those immigrants who do come into this country for the right reason to be integrated. What Labour doesn't really understand is there is going to be so much anger, even more anger than there is at present, if people start taking over the British housing. And if they do that, people are going to have such a feeling of resentment. And it means that the few immigrants who come here legally, who deserve to be here, who are escaping oppression and not just coming here because Britain is a soft touch, they're not going to be treated as well as they ought to be from a decent nation. So basically what I'm saying is that Labour has got this huge housing plan to build more and more houses, but are they going to go to British people? No, just 1 in 10. And that has to be wrong with all the crises that exist at the moment. And God help us following the budget at the end of November, because I think the crisis will grow even more and more and more. To see how illegal immigrants are being treated compared to ordinary, decent British people, it's going to cause such tension. Maybe that will be the tipping point that you talked about, Mark.
Indeed. I mean, Sir Michael, do you look at the state of the country with a heavy heart, given the fact that you did sit on those back benches as the governing party for 14 years?
I wasn't always on the back benches, Mark. I was I was a minister for a while, but apart from correcting you on that minor point, yes, absolutely. And the frustration I feel, and the number of times that I spoke to David Cameron about this, but no, I'm afraid the Conservatives weren't listening at the time either. I don't think we would have been doing, and I know damn well we wouldn't have been doing as badly as this present government. And incidentally, it's worth noting that Keir Starmer is the most unpopular leader now since records began. You think it was bad under Boris. You think that Margaret Thatcher was hated. Well, I can tell you, they were more popular at their least liked points than Keir Starmer is now. And it's for a reason. He doesn't have direction. And as we were saying earlier, the whole Lucy Powell thing is going to cause massive tensions in the Labour Party. And it's something that I think could see the implosion. And in fact, I was saying to friends last night in Lichfield, that where I am at the moment, that I've got a bet, I'm going to lay a bet that Keir Starmer will not be Prime Minister come Christmas next year, because I think with the May elections, it's going to be bad for the Conservatives. It's going to be far, far worse for Labour.
And on that bombshell, will the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, be out of number 10 in a year? More on that next. OK, folks, listen, we've got to crack on because we've got to talk about the state of the country. And we're going to do that in the company of the head of communications at Popular Conservatism, Annunziata Rees-Mogg, and Sir Michael Fabricant, who is a former Conservative MP and now in demand and a very popular political commentator. Annunziata, Sunday Telegraph, Starmer told to bin workers' rights. Labour's workers' rights bill risks crippling the jobs market. According to, wait for it, Annunziata, the Labour Party's favourite left-wing think tank, the Resolution Foundation.
This is definitely a real blow to Starmer. These plans were drawn up by Rayner before she had to leave for her own tax affair reasons. They are an appalling list of supposed rights for workers that will just hugely damage employability and increase our unemployment in this country, as the Resolution Foundation has said. I think one fascinating fact, I think it was Andrew Griffith pointed out yesterday, is that more cabinet ministers have worked for the Resolution Foundation than in a business. That is how close to this government this think tank is. And hasn't just criticised the Employment Rights Bill, which is appalling, but it does explain why it will make employment worse. But it has also laid into Rachel Reeves's national insurance increases, the other moves that this government has made that are meaning businesses are closing and jobs are being lost.
However, Sir Michael Fabricant, the national insurance tax raid was as a result of settling pay disputes that began under the Conservatives, and also we know that Labour inherited a massive deficit and a huge national debt. Similarly, the workers' rights package, isn't it about making sure that people who work hard are treated fairly, get a fair wage and have proper rights?
Well, I was reading in The Times, the newspaper, of course, which is a part of the Talk Radio group today.
And what a great read it is, let me tell you.
It is actually. It's a very, very good read, the Sunday Times and the Times newspaper. My favourite.
Are you angling for a column just like Rishi Sunak?
Maybe I should.
Maybe I'd like it. I think
read
your
I'm too
comments all day
outrageous
long
for the Times, actually. But I was reading in the Times that since the 15% pay rise from Labour, that the average wage now for a train driver is something in the order of £77,000,
wow,
which is more than a senior police officer, more than an airline pilot, more than what was the other one?
A school teacher, a well-qualified school teacher wouldn't make that much.
No, exactly. And the point that I'm making really is that one of the reasons, first of all, they did not have this black hole that Labour kept on going on about. We know that Labour are habitual liars. And if there were that black hole, how would they have been able to fund the massive pay rises, not only to the rail unions, but also some nurses and others? And now we've got, incidentally, consultants saying quite rightly, well, nurses are now earning almost as much as us. Not the case, actually. But, you know, the differentials. Remember that phrase from the 1970s? No, you're too young, Mark. But in the 1970s...
I'm going to Google it. What's a differential?
A differential is when you have one group of people earning a certain amount of money, others are slightly lower down, and then when the lower down one gets a pay rise, they get much closer. And people get angry because the differential isn't there, because they say they're in a more senior position. That's why you've now got consultants and senior doctors saying, well, we want a pay rise too. And the simple answer to your question is no, there wasn't that huge deficit. And B, putting up 2% on employers' national insurance. Might sound like a cheap gimmick because it means that it didn't come out directly out of employees' pockets. What it does mean is that employers are going out of business. I've already seen a couple of shops closed here in Lichfield and closed, and they're saying because of national insurance. And this is just a repeat of what happened in the 1970s. I mean, I have to say, I was looking at some of the pictures just now of Keir Starmer that you were showing during the introduction there for those people watching this on TV and thinking how haggard he looks. And, you know, when I think how things started going wrong for the Conservatives, which was after COVID and with the Ukraine war dragging money out of this country, and that was after 11 years. Labour have barely been in office a year and they are falling apart. We all see it. It is quite extraordinary, actually. I have never seen a government collapse so quickly. I mean, government's been in, the Conservative government, for 14 years. What have Labour been doing in all that time? Haven't they been thinking of policy? Haven't they been thinking of a direction they want to go in? Apparently not. They're directionless.
I hear what you're saying about the disputed £20 billion black hole, Michael, but you can't argue that the economy wasn't in a very dire state when Labour took to power in July of last year. Annunziata, do you think there's any instinct for self-preservation on the part of the Prime Minister, that he might, in the months ahead, tackle illegal immigration, possibly press the nuclear button of tearing up the ECHR, and having some policies that will boost the economy?
His backbenchers won't let him tear up the ECHR. The Human Rights Act, as embedded into British law, is there to stay for as long as Labour has a majority. He might want to. I think he does actually recognise that immigration is likely to be the issue that brings him down, but he's hamstrung by his own party, half of whom think we should allow absolutely anybody and everybody into this country and should be part of a global community where we are all the same and being British is meaningless. If anything, something to be ashamed of and to water down. He is looking haggard. I think Michael makes a very good point that if you look at Tony Blair after 18 months, he still looks like Tony Blair. If you look at Theresa May after 18 months, she's aged 20 years. And Keir Starmer is definitely in that category. And I think it shows he might well feel he just has to resign for his own sake.
Now, I'm going to have to interrupt both of you because I've got breaking news, and it's welcome breaking news, which is that the man who entered this country illegally and spent 12 months in prison for a sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl has been caught. That's right. If you're just joining us on Talk Breakfast, I can bring you the news that this man has been caught. His name is Hadush Kibatu, an Ethiopian national who was accidentally freed at HMP Chelmsford on Friday, has been found and arrested after a manhunt. The Met Police says Kibatu was arrested in the Finsbury Park area of North London at 8:30 a.m. this morning. The police have their man. This guy's going to be detained and now he will be deported to Ethiopia. What a sorry tale, Annunziata, Rees-Mogg, but at least this man's been caught.
I mean, it's like something out of Inspector Clouseau, but I'm delighted he is off our streets, and that is what matters. And now we'll see if he's actually deported or whether, like the so-called one in, one out, he just hops back on another boat back here again.
Yes, will lessons be learnt from this, Sir Michael? Your reaction to the news that Hadush Kibatu has been caught?
I was wondering, actually, whether he was caught. Given that he went back several times to the prison saying, let me back in, I just wonder whether he went up to a policeman and said, look, will you please arrest me? I want to get back in. So I'd love to know the circumstances, whether it was, the police. And I don't really want to knock the police here because they're not the the criminals in this instance, but I really do wonder whether it was the police who caught him or whether he just surrendered himself to the nearest police officer. I was going to say the nearest police officer patrolling the streets, but you never see police officers patrolling the streets nowadays. But anyway.
No, that's right. Just to bring you up to speed, a migrant sex offender who was released from prison in error has been arrested in London after a manhunt. And can we please just hang on to him this time? Annunziata, we interrupted you mid-flow there with regards to the Prime Minister's sort of efforts to run the country in the months ahead. You mentioned that you think he'll come under significant pressure, Michael. Do you agree with that, Annunziata? Do you think that Starmer could be gone in a year?
I think he may well decide for himself, but the Labour Party mechanisms for changing leader, if he doesn't want to, we're stuck with him.
That's interesting, isn't it? And I've got to say that a lot of people agree with you, Michael, that he is under pressure. Rob from Wiltshire says, "Hi, Mark. My prediction is that Starmer and Reeves will be gone early in the new year following the dreadful budget in November. I hope it's the catalyst that brings this government down." Is there any conceivable way, Michael, that Britain gets an early general election?
No, I don't think that'll happen. I've never disagreed with Annunziata on anything, but I was asking, but on this one I do, because I was asking my best friend, who happens to be ChatGPT, about what the mechanism is to get rid of a Labour Prime Minister or a Labour leader. And there are mechanisms now. The rules change slightly. It's very easy. It's too easy in the Conservative Party to do it, as we know only too well to our cost. However, it is possible that you do need a certain number of Labour MPs to say they haven't got confidence in their leader, and it's less than 50%, but it's getting near it. And they could get rid of him. But I think it'll all come down, not what your listener said after the budget, but it'll be after the May elections. I mean, we saw this incredible result in Caerphilly in Wales, where it was a very, very strong Labour seat, and I think their vote went down to 14%, something of that order. It was very, very low indeed from a previous 80%. So it was a massive drop. I think he'll be gone after May. I think people will say enough. And I certainly agree with your listener who says, and Rachel Rees will be gone too, because she is also the most unpopular Chancellor of the Exchequer since records began. So the two of them are toast.
I'll tell you who's toast before I let both of you go, and lovely to see you both on a Sunday morning. Bad news for fans of Pizza Hut. Scores of restaurants are to close at the cost of 1,200 jobs, and of course it's an example of the egregious state of the high street in this country. And Annunziata,
and because of the national insurance,
I was going to say,
citing that
it's been so bad for hospitality, and the reason why the national insurance tax rate is particularly egregious, Annunziata, is because it impacts young workers in hospitality who often it's their first job after school or university to work in a pub or a restaurant. They don't have those jobs now. But Pizza Hut is dwindling. We're losing loads of branches. So, Annunziata, Rees-Mogg, what is your preferred pizza topping?
In Pizza Hut, they call it cheese and tomato. Other places, they call it margarita. I'm as simple as they come. Yeah, you're old school. I like that. Keep it simple. How about you, Michael? Do you have a more colourful toppings for pizzas?
You know, another occasion where I have to disagree strongly with Annunziata.
No.
This is very,
the rights
very
are so split these
My
days.
favourite topping is spicy, so it's chorizo. I always add Tabasco and make it as spicy as possible.
I'd love to try your hot sausage. Thank you, Sir Michael. And thank you, Annunziata, two very good friends of mine, and I think you'll agree, both great broadcasters, Sir Michael Fabricant, Conservative commentator, ex-Tory MP, and Annunziata Rees-Mogg, who is the head of communications for Popular Conservatism.